I mean, we're here giving money to illegal immigrants while Americans, are suffering. I know plenty of people right now who can't even find a job. Is it a recession? I would say it's a recession. Absolutely. And I think we're bordering on a depression. So I remember the year that Obamacare rolled out, and that first year, our healthcare costs for our company went up 15%. And I can assure you that in no year since then have we not had an increase of at least 9%. So we have probably over the last, 2009, 2010, over the last 14 years, probably doubled or tripled our healthcare costs, where, they play it as it's going to help you, right? You're going to have more coverage and you can keep your doctor and all of these things. And so they sell you a bill of goods, because until you're actually the consumer and you're trying to get into your doctor isn't taking the insurance that you're forced to take. Now, gratefully, Donald Trump did do away with having to force us to have the health insurance. But what wound up happening is you have about 6-7 administrators at every doctor's office for every doctor to keep up with the level of reporting that is required under that 1,000-page bill. Not only that, but it's selling out our privacy. So when you sign that form that says, I agree to release my records to my husband and my doctor, it means those two people, in addition to every other healthcare provider out there, pharmacist and the government. So, we have no privacy when it comes to our healthcare issues. And I don't believe that it's not being weaponized against us. So just like everything else in this government, they do not want good things for us. And that's just the tip of the iceberg is Obamacare. We have got to make medicine competitive again. We need to get the government out of healthcare so that we could have innovation, right? We have no breakthroughs happening. We're still, cutting and radiating cancer 100 years in. There's no innovation in it because it's stifled by the federal government. We've got to get them out of there so that we actually have great health care at a good price. The government just doesn't stop spending. So we have never implemented a 2024 budget. What they did was they put in a bunch of bills, like continuing bills, to make sure that certain aspects of the government are funded. And yet we are still going $1 trillion every quarter into debt. So we're at $35 trillion. Every quarter we're adding $1 trillion. We've got almost $2 trillion a year that we're spending just on servicing the money that we owe, right? The interest payments on what we owe. And then we turn the printing press on. So while the government is overspending, we're turning the printing press on, which is all this is doing is creating more and more inflation. I would not be surprised if before we get to this election that we have some sort of hyperinflation where we see prices just really skyrocket almost overnight. It is a national security crisis that nobody wants to talk about. The U.S. dollar is being crushed on purpose by other nations, these BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now more than 100 other nations whose gross domestic product is, almost 2-to-1 what ours is. We are not the boss anymore. Nobody wants the greenback. Nobody wants the U.S. dollar. Not only that, but then anything that we could be doing to save ourselves, such as new land leases where we're drilling for oil to make ourselves, energy independent again, that would bring down prices, right? The price of gasoline affects everything that we touch. When you go to the grocery store, it comes on a truck. Our electric bills double what they were in 2020. Gas, it's up, I think, 30-40%. That kind of varies. We are just being taken to the cleaners, and it feels like it's intentional. I'm a big proponent of having a little bit of gold and silver to hedge our bets a little bit, because I think it's going to be bumpy. I think that it's going to be a difficult few months getting into November. All it's going to take is Donald Trump, and we know that, right? It just took one administration. It is a single person sitting in the Oval Office that really can make that difference overnight. The Department of Homeland Security is undermining every effort of every state to try and secure their own border. So they are interfering with the state of Texas. As we try to put up razor wire, we have the Department of Homeland Security coming and cutting the razor wire right behind our troops. So DHS was created with the Patriot Act, and the Patriot Act is unconstitutional top to bottom. You can't spy on Americans, period. But what they do is they put us in fear, and then they roll out some legislation and say, oh, you need this. We've got the solution for you, right? To make you feel safe. And so DHS and NTSA, two agencies that are now basically weaponized against the American people, were created by that one unconstitutional act. So DHS, I would hope that Donald Trump can get that turned around. I don't know. I think that there are a lot of people in there that are on the take, that are trafficking kids. I know that HHS is trafficking children along with the NGOs, a lot of the non-governmental organizations being funded by our federal government, right? We're giving to Catholic charities. We're not. We're trafficking kids. And so these things need to stop. Donald Trump is going to, make it a priority to do these things. And I just need to be a support for him. He's going to need reinforcements in DC. We've got, the majority by a hair in Congress and in the House of Representatives, but even a lot of those people don't seem to be real Republicans. They don't really want what's best for the American people. They're there for their own self-interests. And so that needs to change. We need a government that is for the people and by the people, we the people. We need to decrease government spending. We need to get the government back down to a constitutional form of government, which really should be very insignificant. The federal government has just a handful of roles that it should be filling. And what it's doing is it's overreaching into hundreds of areas of our life every single day. Whereas, they're just supposed to be doing a couple of things, and it should be the state and local governments that are handling our day-to-day operations. And so really, I'm going up there to cut the purse strings to stop the weaponization of this government. We cut the purse strings. We decrease the size of the government 75 to 90%. We all keep a whole bunch more money in our pockets. And not only that, we don't fight this communist efforts to take over America anymore. It's really being funded by our own tax dollars. I mean, we're here giving money to illegal immigrants while Americans, are suffering. I know plenty of people right now who can't even find a job. They're just suffering. Then there's no benefits for them. There's nothing. Is it a recession? I would say it's a recession. Absolutely. And I think we're bordering on a depression. These folks that I know, I have a friend who is Black. And so she's like, I can't even get the DEI jobs because I'm conservative. They ask you all of these nonsense questions. And she's like, I can't play the game. I can't play the ESG DEI game in order to even get her foot in the door. There's just so much narrative, red tape to cut through to get a job. And so that's more of that regulation, right? If you're doing anything that involves a bank. So even these private equity groups, it's not private equity. They're dealing with banks. And so they're full of ESG. They have an entire ESG department. So people are struggling. It's a rigged system, very much so. I am very much an outsider. I'm obviously not soft-spoken. I speak my mind. Which I think most people find refreshing. It's something that we haven't seen in a long time out of our politicians. I don't have any desire to be a politician. I want to be a public servant. As long as they need me in Washington, I will be there to deliver them a constitutional republic back again. But that's the only reason I'm doing this. I don't need this. I really don't have any desire to go to the swamp, all the time. But I want something better for your kids, my kids, and our grandkids. I want my country back. And if nobody else is going to get it for me, I'm going to get it myself.